Hey folks, welcome along to our final tutorial in the series where we're learning how to create a platform game using MakeCode Arcade. What we're going to be doing in this final video are two simple things. Basically, we're going to have an enemy join the game, so we're going to have a little bee that will fly after us trying to attack us. And the other thing that we're going to bring in is just an obstacle that we need to avoid. It's going to be like a fireball that's just moving up and down, and we just need to make our way past it and not get hit by it. Once we've got those two things in, our game should be pretty much finished. So let's rip into it. Before we do get started on any more coding, let's just have a quick recap on where we're at. So we've got our little girl that jumps around, no worries. She's collecting coins. Just turn my sound up a bit there so you can hopefully hear that. We can collect the flowers too. Now those flowers we're actually going to use in a moment to activate the bee. We've got lava down the bottom that we can run into and die, and we've got the portal here which takes us through the next level. Okay, I'm just going to hit the lava and die there. Okay, that's where we are at. So what I would like to add in first today is the little bee that's going to attack us when we collect a bunch of flowers. Now to do that, you're going to have to come across to your code over here that has you overlapping between the player and the flower. At the moment when we hit the flowers, we destroy the flowers that we've hit, and we also play a little positive sound to show that we've done the right thing by collecting it. But what I want to happen as well is I want a bee to spawn just outside of the screen and then fly towards us. Okay, and that bee is going to keep following us until we either kill it ourselves by jumping on its head, or the bee runs into us and we lose a life. Okay, so let's get started on coding this up. Next thing that needs to go into this section of code is in sprites, and we're just going to set up a new sprite here. The new sprite, just rename it to bee, click OK. If you want, you can bring in a picture of a bee from the, I don't think there's one in the gallery, you could draw it yourself if you wanted to, but you can actually leave it blank. We haven't done this in the past, but you can leave that blank, and we can draw our bee in the animation blocks that we're going to put in shortly. Okay, so let's try something new, and we'll leave that blank. And the kind of sprite we're going to use is an enemy sprite. Okay, remember the bee is an enemy in this game, so it can be classed as an enemy sprite. In the next bit, we're going to actually draw the bee. It's going to be in the animation drawer. We're going to bring out the first block of code from the animation drawer. We are going to animate the bee, and we're going to use our own frames to animate the bee. Now to do this, I'm going to use the pencil tool at the smallest size, and I'm going to grab the color black first of all. And I'm going to start somewhere near the middle, and I'm going to draw 7 boxes across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Then I'm going to go 3 down, 1, 2, 3, 7 across again, and 3 up again. And you get a kind of circular shape. That's going to be the body of our bee. I'm then going to go around and put these little dots in as well. Okay, hard to tell from this super zoomed in size, but that's going to be like the little lines you generally see on the bodies of bees. And using my fill tool, I'm just going to color it in yellow. And that's the body of my bee. I know it looks crap, but trust me, once we're in the game, it's going to be a lot smaller, and it's actually going to look pretty reasonable. It's going to look like a little bee. Okay, now remember, this is an animation. Okay, we've got the body of the bee over here on the right hand side as the first frame in our animation. What we can do is hit the 2 pieces of paper here next to the trash can and duplicate that. And that makes 2 frames in our animation now. Okay, they're both exactly the same, so if we were to look at the preview window up here, nothing's actually changing. But what I'm going to do in this second frame is add in some wings for my bee. And that's going to make it look like the wings are flapping when the animation actually runs. I'll show you what I mean in just a sec. So go back and grab your pencil tool, colored black, and just copy me. I'm going to put a dot there and a dot there. I'm going to go 7 across again and just 2 down on either side. I'll then grab my white color, and I'm just going to color, whoops, not that much. I'll color those wings in a little bit. Not very good at coloring these in. There we go, something like that. Now I know close up that looks crap. Okay, it doesn't look like anything reasonable, but trust me, when we get into the game and it's a lot smaller, it's going to look really good. And if we play that animation up here now, you can kind of see how it's going to look to make it look like the wings are flying. Alright, so click on done once you've got your little picture in, and turn the interval speed up there to about 100 milliseconds and turn the loop on. That way the wings will always be flapping, and it's going to move a lot quicker than what we saw in that preview just a second ago. Alright, so that's our little bee in the game. What we need to do next is make the bee actually target our player. So wherever our player goes, we want the bee to follow. Okay, first of all, it's going to spawn into the game. It's going to be off to the top right there somewhere, just out of the screen. And then as the player moves, the bee's going to follow the player wherever it goes until we either kill it by jumping on its head, or it runs into us and takes a life off us. Okay, so let's go up to our sprites here, and we're going to set the position of our bee sprite to X and Y here. Now we're going to need a few blocks here. We're going to have to go to math first of all and grab the plus block out and stick it in the X value. And then from math again, we're going to grab the minus block and put it in the Y value. Then we're going to go to sprites and look for the one that says my sprite X and drop that in the first 0 value there. And we're going to change that to the girl. And just duplicate that and put it over in the first 0 in the Y section and make it girl Y. What that is doing is setting the bee's position to exactly where the girl is on the X and Y axis at the moment. But we don't want the bee to spawn right on top of the girl. Okay, we want it to spawn a little bit out of the screen so the player has time to actually react when it flies onto the screen. So what I'll do on the X axis, I might move it 80 spaces or 80 pixels to the right. And on the Y axis, I might move it up. That's why I've got the negative sign there. Remember, if you want to move up the page, you need to move into the negatives. I might put 50 for that one. Okay, so that's going to spawn the bee somewhere over towards the top right of the screen. Probably just out of the screen, actually, when we do play our game. Now, the last thing I want to do in this block is make the bee follow the girl. So there is an option in the sprites drawer here to set the bee to follow the girl. So wherever the girl goes, the bee should follow. Okay, now I'm not sure that's, well, it's definitely not finished, but I'm not sure if that's going to work if we test that. We'll give it a go, but we'll go and collect a bunch of flowers and see if we can get a bee spawning into our game. I know there's some flowers up the top here somewhere. Okay. Oh, it's because we're too high. I'll try these ones. There's the bee. Okay, and if I jump around up here, the bee's going to follow me. Now, I should have 2 bees following me now. The reason that first bee didn't come out is because the flowers were too high to the top of the screen and the bee would have spawned outside the screen, and for some reason it doesn't come onto the screen. Okay, so if we do hit those flowers, there's another bee coming on, so just be aware when you put your flowers in your tile map, you probably don't want them too far up high or too close to the right hand side of the screen, or they're not actually going to spawn into the game. So I might just go to my tile, actually not my tiles, galleries, no, I'll go to the eraser and just erase a couple of those flowers up high. They're not going to work. The other ones should be all good. I'll just look at tile map 2 quickly. That one's not going to work. The others should be fine. Alrighty, so we've got the bees following us. That's a good start. Now, next thing we need to do is actually make them react. So something's going to actually happen when we have the bee touch us. Okay, so we're going to have to put in another one of these overlap events from our sprites option here. So on sprite of kind player, when it overlaps of other sprite kind, and we might make a new kind here. We won't make a new kind. We've got enemy. Sorry, I was looking for the word bee, but no, we've got the enemy. So when the player overlaps with the enemy, or when the player runs into the bee, what is going to happen? Well, first of all, let's destroy the bee. It's not fair if it stays alive, so we're going to destroy and just grab other sprite and drop it on my sprite. Okay, that just destroys the bee that hit us. Then we're going to do an if statement. Okay, we need to work out if the bee has hit us, or if we have hit the bee by jumping on its head. Okay, so we just do that in a simple if-else statement. So grab the if-then-else statement, and we're going to look at the Y position of the girl and the Y position of the bee. Where are they on the Y axis? Who's higher? If the girl's higher, it means we've collided with the girl on top of the bee's head. So the girl will kill the bee. If the bee is higher up the Y axis, then that means the bee's got us, and we need to take a life off our lives here in the top left. Alright, so we're going to go to where it says my sprite X and bring that out. And I also want you to duplicate that. So we've got 2 of them. And then we're going to go to logic and get this less than symbol and drag that onto the word true. And now drop these inside of it where the zeros are. And what it's going to say is if the girl on the y-axis is less than the other sprite. So just bring this other sprite down onto my sprite. That's just the B. So if the girl on the y-axis, her value on the y-axis is less than the other sprite on the y-axis as well, okay, then we're going to change our score by 3. So we get 3 points for killing a bee. Bit of an incentive to try and attract those bees. And we're going to play a sound in the background as well. You can choose whatever positive sounds you want. I don't really know what positive sounds we've got here. I'm not sure what they all sound like, but let's just go with a jump up, I suppose. Hopefully that's a positive sound, and we'll play that in the background. Okay. Remember, with the girl being, or her y value being less than the b, that means she's higher up the page. Remember, if you want to go up the y-axis, you head into the negative numbers. So that's why the girl is killing the bee in this instance. But what if it's the other way around? What if it is the girl below the bee? Then what happens? Well, we're going to go to info here, and we are going to change our life by -1. So we lose a life. And then we're going to play a sound in the background. And that sound is going to be the zapped sound. I know that's a kind of negative sound, like something wrong has happened. Okay, and that should be enough code to have our little bee working. Let's give it a crack. So let's go find some flowers. Comes a bee. Okay, and that was the zap sound and one of my lives disappearing. Let's try and kill a bee now. There we go. That's probably not the worst sound. That was a fairly positive sound. So let's try that again. There you go. So that's working just fine. Excellent. So you can see my points went up when I killed the bee. My lives went down when the bee killed us, or took a life off us at least. Okay, so that's our enemy working. That's all good. What we might put in now, just to actually, before we do finish off, I was just thinking, if we go to level 2 and we've got bees still in level 1, they're going to carry over to level 2. So like we did in the last video, where we destroyed any flowers or coins at the start of each level, we better do the same here for our bees. So simply right-click on this one here where it's destroying the coins, and duplicate it. Just put it down underneath it there somewhere. And where it says for element value of, it's going to be array of sprites of kind, and choose the enemy, and it will destroy it. So it's just going to destroy any enemies we've got on the screen, so the bees on the screen, when we start a new level. Alright, so that is sorted. Alright, next thing we need to do is just bring in this fireball that I was talking about. It's going to be an obstacle that we need to avoid, and then we are finished. So this is going to go in this start level function as well. So each time we start a level, we need to have a look at adding in this fireball. Alright. So actually, before we put that in, we're going to put it in a tile map. So I only want it in level 2. I think level 1 is good enough. Start simple, let the user get used to the controls. Level 2 though, we need to step it up a notch. So let's add the fireball into level 2 only. So I'm going to go to my tiles and add a new blank tile. I might choose green this time. I haven't used that color yet. And use that as my placeholder for where the fireball is going to go. Using your pencil tool, find a spot that has 2 walls that it can bounce between. Okay, so this is a good spot here. It's going to go up and down between these walls. I might put another one over here. Make it a bit of a challenge. So if you want to collect this coin beneath it, it's going to be bouncing up and down. You're going to have to be quick to get that one. I might put one just here so it bounces between these 2. And one towards the end just to finish off with, to make it a bit tricky as you get through that finish line. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 obstacles there that we're going to need to avoid to get through unscathed. So we'll click on done there. So we've got our placeholder in position now. So now we can go over and add it into our start level block of code. Now this block of code is getting absolutely enormous. That's alright, one more little bit won't hurt. Okay, so let's go to loops and grab the one that says for element value of list and get rid of the word list like we usually do. And we're going to go into our scene, draw, grab the third last block again, the array of all green locations. So we're going to look around our tile maps and look for any of those green blocks, and we're going to replace it with a fireball. So let's go set up a sprite, and we'll rename it to fireball. That's okay. And let's look in the gallery and see if there is a fireball kind of sprite. We might have to modify one if there isn't one. I guess this kind of looks like a fireball. We could go with this. Looks a little bit off, so I might just tidy it up a little bit around the bottom here. There we go, that looks kind of like a fireball to me. I'm happy with that, so I'll click on done. We're not going to animate this one, can't be bothered doing that, so just leave it as it is. It's going to be a static sprite. So we'll set the fireball to sprite of that picture, and the kind, we'll just add a new kind in and just call it fireball, and click OK. Alright, so we've got our sprite in. That's going to be appearing where those green locations are in tilemap 2. Now that fireball is going to be probably a little bit big for my liking, just judging from what it looked like a moment ago. So I am going to set the scale over here, very last block in our sprites drawer. I'm going to set it to about 0.5, and we can always adjust that if need be, but 0.5 will halve the size of that fireball to make it a bit smaller. We're going to go to our scene now, and we're going to place in that fireball into our game. And it's going to be on top of the value. So where it's got tile map, col and row, just grab the word value and drop that on top of it instead. Basically saying anywhere we see a green block, we're going to put the fireball on top of it. Easy. We want to get rid of that green block too. Okay, so back in scene there, we should be able to set a picture to something transparent. Here it is here. So we're going to set a transparent block to value. So remember, value is where those green blocks are at. So we put a fireball there, and then we cover up that green block with a transparent one instead. Okay, so that should have them in position. What we need to do next, once they're in position, is actually make them move up and down. So that's quite simple to do. We just need to go to our sprites here, and we're going to set where it says X to 0. I'm going to change the X of the fireball to the velocity on the y-axis. So what speed do we want it moving on the y-axis? Go about 40 to start with, and you can always adjust that if you want it faster or slower. And the last thing I want it to do is we want the fireball to bounce on the walls. So it doesn't just fly through them, it turns around and goes the other way, so it just bounces off them. So in sprites there is an option for that. It's just here. We're going to set the fireball to bounce on the wall and set it to on. Alrighty, so that should have our fireballs working. I'll quickly test that. We will have to get through to level 2 to test it, so I'll just burn through level 1 here, hopefully not getting killed by too many bees or anything. Try and avoid those flowers where I can. Okay, here's level 2, so this is where we want to have a look for these fireballs. We should start seeing them. Here we go, there's one. That's a good one. Makes it a bit tricky to get through. There's another one up higher there. There should be one near the end. Here we go. That's bouncing off the walls just fine. And one more there just to finish off with. Okay, at the moment the fireball will obviously hit us. We haven't put in an overlap event just yet. But that's what we need to do now. Okay, so let's jump out of this and we'll put in an overlap event between us and the fireball just to finish things off. So I'll come back up here where there's a bit more room. In sprites, look for your overlap event there where your sprite player will overlap sprite of kind fireball. Let's play a sound. Let's go with a negative sound. We'll go the wah 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 sound in the background. We will take a life off us, so change your lives by -1, and let's lose a point as well. So we'll change our score by -1 when we get hit by a fireball as well. And finally, we'll just destroy the fireball that's hit us. Okay, so destroy, not fireball, we're going to choose other sprite. Okay, that just destroys that one sprite that hit us and doesn't destroy all the fireballs on the screen at once, because remember there's about 4 fireballs going around there at once. I think that is about it. We could be finished our game here, so let's go and give it a test run to make sure we're happy with it. Okay, so everything's looking good there at the start. I'm going to collect a fair few things here, just to make sure everything's working nicely. I'll turn my volume up a bit so we can hear it. Here comes the bee. Killed the bee, we got 3 points. Bee can take a life off us, perfect. Now I can see my player walking between the gaps there, not falling through very well. That's because our player is probably just a wee bit too big, so if you did want to scale your player down so they do fall through those gaps every time, you can do that. Excellent. Alright, level 2. Looks like the bees are still working in level 2. Let's just go across the top here now. There's a fireball we'll avoid. Let's get hit. Alright, very negative sound that one, but it did take a life off. Hopefully you saw that, and it did take a point off as well, so that's perfect. Let's finish off the game. You win. Okay, and I got the best score. Happy days. We have a complete platform game. How good is that? Alright, there is plenty of room for improvement there. You can add in more levels. You can add in more enemies. You could maybe make your player shoot. Okay, there's so much more you could add to that platform game. So if you've got time, by all means go ahead and do that. But that's all I'm going to show you in this series on how to make a platform game. Well done if you got this far, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you create in your own platform games.